Hello and welcome to this webinar on the What's New in the PowerPack for Revit 2025. My name is Simon Dickinson. I am the product manager for the PowerPack for Revit. I've been using Revit pretty much for as long as Autodesk have owned it, so since about 2001. Most of my time here at GRAITEC, I was a BIM consultant up until 2 years ago. So I was basically specialising in teaching people how to use Revit, BIM workflows, Navisworks, 3ds Max, etc. Construction Cloud. And then for the past 2 years, I've been lucky enough to be the product manager for the PowerPack for Revit. As you can see there, lots of experience in the Autodesk ecosystem, Navisworks, 3ds Max, AutoCAD Plant 3D. I'm actually the product manager for our Plant 3D PowerPack as well, and also with the Construction Cloud. Everything as it's been evolving from BIM 360 to ACC. I'm an Autodesk certified instructor. I'm a consultant on the Autodesk implementation framework, and as you can see there, I've also completed Autodesk's ACC Elite program, and this all stems back to my degree many years ago, back in Liverpool John Moores University. And as you can see there, a few of my badges that I've earned along the way, just that I can put up. Okay, so we've got a bit of an agenda for today, and we've got some general updates that we've made to the PowerPack for Revit. We then have the changes and the improvements that we've made to the PowerPack for Revit Start Edition, and then also the tools that are part of the main PowerPack for Revit. So let's have a look at the general updates. Probably the biggest update that we've made this year, and it's an update we've had to make to all of our PowerPacks except Vault, is Autodesk changed the .NET framework that the software sits on. Prior to the 2025 version of the software, it was running on .NET Framework 4.3, and we've upgraded that to .NET 8. Microsoft released .NET 8 in September last year, so September 2023, and Autodesk have then adopted that platform. And if anyone's used any of the 2025 Autodesk software, whether that be one of the Autodesk-based products or Revit, you'll notice there is a substantial speed increase. But because Autodesk changed it to .NET 8, we've had to basically rewrite the whole of the PowerPack to make it compatible. So it's been a massive undertaking. So it's not just been a case of adding new functionality, we've had to rewrite all of our existing functionality so that it can support the .NET 8 framework. And the one thing that we have noticed is all of our PowerPacks are now running a lot faster on this new framework. So everyone benefits from this .NET 8. Another thing that we've done is, we've been developing the PowerPack since 2015. So since the 2016 version of the Autodesk software, we've actually had the PowerPack for Revit. And obviously, over the years, a lot of the tools that we add, we've either replaced ourselves with better tools, or Autodesk have added that functionality into out-of-the-box Revit. So for instance, just take an example, sheets to DWG we replaced with batch export a couple of years ago, and batch export will export to more file formats. It'll export to DWG, PDF, DGM, NWC files, so we can basically batch export now. So we didn't need Sheets WG, it was a redundant tool. Other things that have been added in, like the column height, that was something that didn't exist before, and now it does. Again, with some of our rebar tools for the isolate rebar set, the split at line, and the schedule schema, these are tools that Autodesk have added out of the box. Yeah, so now it's better to be using these features. We've streamlined the code, and it just now means that we've been able to remove excessive code. We've reduced the size of the install. We've made it faster again, and it just lays down the groundwork to start looking now at adding additional features. We don't want the toolbar to just keep exponentially growing. It'd just be unmanageable. Let's now take a look at the improvements and enhancements that we've made to the PowerPack for Revit Start Edition. The first one here is the changes that we've made to BIM Connect, so that it allows for better import of GTCX reinforcement. So in particular from TriCalc. So TriCalc is one of our structural analysis packages, and mainly in the Iberia regions, but this is now the starting point for other improvements to GTCX. So what we can do now is any GTCX, any reinforcement that's created in TriCalc can be seamlessly integrated into Revit. Prior to this, the only way of importing and exporting reinforcement in general was through IFC. If anyone's tried to export reinforcement from any other package into Revit as IFC, it will break down every single element into a stat. So basically it will be a single element. So for instance, where your stirrups might be spaced with a spacing 26 over 150 mil spacing, that would be broken. That would actually break and it would have individuals. This will now intelligently turn it into a Revit reinforcement that can be then modified using standard Revit tools. So much more powerful tool. So here we are in Revit, and here as you can see we've got this building in Revit. Currently the building's got absolutely no reinforcement. We haven't analysed it, we haven't calculated the theoretical reinforcement. Here we are in TriCalc. As you can see, all the reinforcements being generated in here, and we can now export to GRAITEC BIM, which is our GTCX file format. We can export individual elements, or we can choose to export the complete structure. So here we go. It's quite quick. We can export out our GTCX file. Here we are back now in Revit, and we can do an import. So we can actually choose the file we want to import. The only thing that we have is now in options is to force it to import the reinforcement. We can map our concrete sections, and then we can pull all of these elements in. Yeah, so it's just telling us what it's generated and the reinforcement. And now if we have a look at this model in 3D, we can see that all the reinforced elements and all the design, the specifications for that design have now been brought across from TriCalc straight into Revit. So again, this is a really good improvement, and this will then help to us to extend the functionality of GRAITEC's GTCX file format. Another tool that we've enhanced is a watermark manager. So the watermark manager was created mainly for manufacturers. So if you're a manufacturer and you're creating Revit content, we want to better protect that. Now you can't actually protect a Revit file, it can be edited, but what we can do is we could use the watermark manager to add a watermark to that family. But it was limited to 3 pieces of data. What we've done is we've made it a bit more customizable, where we've now got the ability to add our own parameters into the watermark manager. So before this you were limited to 3, and we wanted to be able to add more data. So we've given it the functionality to add our own custom fields into here. So if we, for instance, here in Revit, if we actually have a look at it in action, what we can do is we can launch the watermark manager from the ribbon, and then we can choose the families that we wish to add a watermark to. Okay, we can verify that there's no watermark, but now in the configuration, as well as the author, company and URL, which we've had before, we can now start to create custom fields, and as many custom fields as we want. So we can really start to add bigger watermarks. Now the watermark is protected by a password, so this will help us when we come to remove, if we want to remove it later. But this data is embedded into the file structure. Although it will be the standard 3 values are displayed within the actual family itself, within the type properties, the actual custom data will be hidden in the background. It's actually all that data is hidden. So even if someone then edits your family, they change the properties in here that we've got there, it cannot be overwritten. That data is hidden in the background, and you can check using the watermark manager if you think somebody's copyright violated your file. We can run the watermark manager on there, and it will extract all of that custom data out in the background. Another tool that we've enhanced is the split column tool. Now, the split column tool we added in last year, I think it was 2024, we added in the split column. However, it would only work on vertical columns. There was no way to split a horizontal, a slanted column. So now what we can do is we can now split slanted columns, and we've got two options in here as well. We can split it horizontally, or we can split it perpendicular as well. So let's just pop in and have a look at how that's going to work. So as you can see in this building here, we've got these two slanted columns, and we can come in and we can now start to split. And there's a split tool is over on our structures tab. Now there's three different ways of doing it. We can split it by point, so we can select a point of where we want to split that column. We can come in and we can split by level, and we can actually use the level as a reference for splitting, and it will use that from the center point where it intersects on the center point, and the same again for reference plane. So there's definitely a lot of options that we have in there on how we split it. Now the little trick for this is that's how we can split them all perpendicular. But if we wanted to do that horizontally, we simply hold the shift button when selecting the function. So if you press and hold shift, this will now tell the software that what we want to do is we want to now split that perpendicular. And as you can see, so horizontally, so we can now get that split horizontal as opposed to perpendicular. Really powerful tool, and it will work on the split level and also on the split by reference as well. So that was a PowerPack Start Edition. If we look at now the Revit PowerPack and the tools that we've now added into there as well. So one of the features which Autodesk removed kind of a few versions ago is Autodesk, as you know, changed the way that the analytical model worked. So rather it generating the analytical model automatically as you were creating the structural elements, you could create them manually. So the idea behind this was that you could actually have a structural model with no analytical model, but you could also draw an analytical model that actually had no physical model there. And that was the reason behind it. And it was using a Dynamo script to do that. So one of a couple of things to be aware of is we actually wrote a tool to generate the analytical model, which was released last year, that ran an awful lot faster. It's ridiculously quicker because ours is programmed, it's not running a Dynamo script. Dynamo scripts tend to run slower because they have to compile as you run. But one of the other things they removed is they removed their color coding. So when you created analytical models, say in Revit 2022, you would automatically get a color coded model. So beams, columns, floors, all the analytical models had their own color. What we've done is we've fetched that color back in. So it basically just makes it a little bit smarter in the way and a neater presentation as well. So if we actually have a look at generating the analytical model, well, let's have a look first at, if we run the Dynamo script. So here's the Dynamo scripts. It's a native command, and we can choose how we want to do it. We select all of our elements, and then it will generate it. We've speeded that up. It took 55 seconds, yeah, and it's just a standard coloured model. Whereas we can run the same command using our analytical tool. Our analytical generator. It took 13 seconds, so 5 times faster, more or less. And it will automatically color code these: orange for beams, blue for columns, cyan for walls, orange for openings, light brown for slabs. These are all the colors that Autodesk were using in the past. So we've now got the ability to set that and automate the way that that's created. One of the things that we always do is we always listen to customers' feedback. When we're developing our tools, we love customer feedback. I love customer feedback. If you guys have got any ideas about what you would like to see in Revit, the sort of tools that you would like Revit to have that it doesn't have, we're always really interested in listening to your ideas or how we can improve it. And this improvement to the nested families was something that we were asked for. So as you can see here, we have a foundation, and because of the way that our numbering tool scans, it wouldn't group nested objects to its host. So imagine if this was an architectural model and you had a table with nested chairs, and you wanted the table and the chairs to be numbered for a furniture schedule. You couldn't guarantee how it would number the chairs, because it would actually be based on what other nested families were around it. So one of the requests we had, and this was actually the request came from a structural engineer in this case, was how can we group these elements together so that when it numbers the pile cap, it can also number the other elements. In this case I've called them all C, but we could actually calculate it and set it up to do C for the caps, P for the piles. It's not a problem, but we can control how that works, and really useful. Another thing, and again customer feedback, was we have the ability to either use an algorithm to control how it numbers elements, but what we also have the ability to do is we can click one by one. Now, from an architectural point of view, this is really useful, because you might want to number, say, doors in a building by, you walk through the front, the main entrance, and then you want to number everything in a clockwise order as you move through the building. So each room is numbered clockwise. We can do that by selecting one at a time. It didn't highlight just something as simple as the fact that when you did one by one, you weren't 100% sure if you'd actually clicked on an element, because there was no visual feedback as to which elements had been chosen. So this is another really powerful functionality that we've added into our numbering tool. So in this case, let's have a look at this model. Let's look at numbering some pile caps. So here's our numbering tool. Really powerful tool. It's actually my favorite feature, and I can say what we want looking at. So in this case, we're looking at structural foundations. How do we want to increment it? How do we want it to look? So in this case, we can put some characters in. We get a nice preview of what our numbering system is going to look like. We can then exclude certain families that we don't want to number. So in this case, we're only interested in the pile caps. Yeah. And the steel pipe. So, we can put them in. That way we're not numbering every bit of foundation, we're just doing the ones we want. We get some feedback about each of them. We click OK, and very quickly it will do that. Now, if we have a look at this, because of the algorithm, this one is number 1, and then this one now will be number 2, because we've actually scanning from the top downwards, number 3, and so on. So you can actually see that it's actually done 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's grouped them rather than numbering the next one accordingly. Okay, so it's really powerful too. So all the nested families can be done. Now, obviously, we might just want to not scan everything, so that's everyone. We want to select one by one, and this is now where we can go into pick, and it's a really simple one. As you pick the elements you want, we can actually understand which elements have been selected. Okay, still going to use the same algorithm unless I tell it to do it in the pick order, which is an option, and we can go through and we can pick them, but we've got that visual feedback and we can see exactly which elements are getting selected. So a very powerful function. Now, this is quite an enhancement and a new feature. So element lookup has existed in the PowerPack for quite a while now, and it allows us to, it's like the ultimate search engine. So rather than selecting everything in a view and then only being able to filter in Revit by the categories, so I can select all the doors very easily. However, if I'm trying to select all the doors that have got maybe a 2-hour fire rating, it's very, very hard to do, because in Revit natively I can't see that very easily, and I can't just select one element and go select all of the same type, because it's not give us that flexibility. So element lookup was always the tool to allow us to really control how we could create selection sets, and we could save these searches and control that. The one thing that it didn't do is the element lookup itself will define certain criteria, and certain families will be listed based on a search. What we've now got is the colour splasher. Now the colour splasher is really clever. So this will allow me to search for elements based on a property. It could be any form of parameter that we've got in there. It could be custom parameters. So if I want to find all the walls that have not got so for instance, with the element lookup, I might search for all the doors that are 2 hours. What I want to do here is I might want to search for all the walls that have got a decibel, that's just got a decibel rating. I don't care what it is, I just want to then color code it by decibel rating. So I select a value, and there might be multiple values for a particular parameter. It will then find all the elements with that parameter, and then we can start to color code it. So this could be from an architectural point of view, for doors, windows, anything. This is not a structural tool, it's not a mechanical tool, it's not an architectural tool. It's an everybody tool, is this. And it's really, really clever. If we actually just have a look at how this works, so let's have a look at it here in basically from a structural point of view, but it doesn't have to be. So what we can do here is we can search the whole project. We could have it just for the current view. So then what we do is we select the categories. Could be multiple categories. Then we select the parameter that we then want to categorize by. So as you can see here, we've actually got all the different types, and we can isolate it. Now what we can then do, which is really nice, is we can then start to look at, in this case we've got a slightly different search, but we can look at setting our colors. And when we select the colors, we can keep clicking on the specify color, and it will keep cycling it. So we can choose, and then we can apply them colors to the views. Okay. And we could also look at it from a different view as well. Okay, so it doesn't matter, we can actually open the different views and see how them color codes work. And we can apply it to different views. Okay, so you can choose which views you want to apply it to, whether every view or just a particular one. We can then generate the legend. Yeah, so we can, very intelligent, give a legend a name, and it will generate that legend. It puts it in the legend category. So that when you apply the elevation to a sheet, we can then put that on. In this case, I've applied to the elevation. I can now remove the color coding from this 3D view, but the elevation still got the color coding. We can create the sheet. We can add the legend onto it, and it's all in that one little tool now. So a really, really powerful improvement. And we've also slightly changed the interface to make it a little bit more intuitive for whether you're using the element lookup or the color splasher. The next thing we've added in is we've now got a brand new analytical model check. So what this will do is this will now check our analytical model to make sure that it's correctly connected. So before you start to do, you send this out to whichever structural analysis package you're using. If you're generating the analytical model within Revit, whether you're exporting that to Robot or whether you're exporting it to Advanced Design, to our structural analysis package, this will actually give us the ability to test and check to make sure that everything's connected. And what it will actually do is, as it's working its way through, it will add some red spheres onto any element that it feels is incorrect. And it doesn't just go between beams and columns, this will check between planar objects as well. So if we have a look at this, and we look at the analytical model. So here's that analytical model that we generated earlier with the colours. We can now look at checking the model and seeing between the various different elements. We can set a tolerance to see what the tolerance is, so 300 mil in this case. and it will list all the issues. We can hide the spheres if you don't want to see them, so we can turn these red spheres on and off. We can also reduce the size of the spheres. So if you've got a model that's got an awful lot of errors, you just end up with a red blob. We can start to reduce that. The spheres are actually visible in all views, so they're visible in the 3D view, section views, plan views, and we can start to see, even if they're in wireframe as well. So here is all. We can isolate them, so where it's found elements that it links them together, where there's an issue, we can isolate them, and we can also, as you can see, we can zoom to them as well. So really, really powerful enhancement there. Some great tools that we've added in there. Big change this year obviously was the .NET 8. We had to put an awful lot of work in there to control the changes. A lot of tools to rewrite and to validate to make sure that we're working on the changes. But again, we've still got some really good value-added tools that we've added into there. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate your time. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to put them in the questions box. I'm here and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the PowerPack, what's new 2025, or even the PowerPack in general. Again, thank you very much, and I'll catch you all right now.
Fantastic. All right, guys. So if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the live chat. We do have Frank here to answer any of those questions. Also, if you have any questions you think about after the webinar, I'm going to throw my email in the chat as well. That's mscott@asti.com. You guys will get a link to the recording between 24 and 48 hours. If for any reason you don't receive this recording link or really any other webinars, I'm your go-to person. You can reach out to me at that email as well, and we'll make sure that you got everything that you need. But we'll allow just a little bit of time here to see if you guys have any questions. Okay. Looks like we don't have any questions, but again, reach out if you think of anything afterwards. We hope today was meaningful and impactful for you and your businesses, and we do look forward to seeing you on future webinars. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.